And welcome to Housing TV News at the top of the hour, coming to you from our studio in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Flora Army. Our top stories. Federal government tightens monitoring for China passengers after new virus breakout. Senate committee meets, sets January 31st deadline for 2025 budget passage. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission sacks 27 corrupt officers, probe $400,000 fraud complaint. Federal government allocates 11.5 billion naira for 20,000 housing units on the Renewed Hope agenda in 2025 budget. On the foreign scene, Biden's plan to boost fossil fuel production. We begin with the Senate. The Senate Committee on Appropriation has proposed January 31st as the target date for the National Assembly to submit and potentially pass the 49.7 trillion 2025 budget. The committee declared that it will suspend the plenary for 2 weeks upon resumption on the 14th of January 2025 to allow all agencies of the government to defend their estimate before the National Assembly. It has also fixed Thursday to hold an open day on the budget consideration, which will gather inputs from various stakeholders and civil society organizations. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Adiola Olamilokon, stated this during a meeting with chairmen of all standing committees in the Senate to discuss the procedures for budget consideration.
As you're all aware, the president laid the budget before the Nationals on the 18th of December. And on the 19th, the budget was debated for second reading and transmitted to the Committee on Appropriation. And from there, we went on our recess. On January 6th, work has begun in earnest, and we have started. And my colleagues and I, we have agreed on the modus operandi and the workability for us to achieve the set target and goals as far as passing the budget into law by the end of January.
The Senate Committee Chair emphasized that the Senate is committed to addressing all concerns raised in the budget document to ensure it serves the interests of all Nigerians. In another development, the House of Representatives says it is set to commence the 2025 budget defense sessions with ministries, departments, and agencies on Tuesday, with a report from the exercise expected to be harmonized on the 22nd of January, with a report expected to be laid at plenary on January 31st by the House Committee on Appropriation. The chairman of the House Committee on Appropriations, Honorable Abubakar Kabiri Bishi, disclosed these in an interview with journalists after the inaugural meeting of the panel on Monday.
We just had an inauguration meeting today for the 2025 appropriation bills, which you have been aware that the president has presented the budget to us. And by tomorrow, we'll start the budget defense by all the MDS. From tomorrow to the 17th, we are going to do budget defense, and we may likely harmonize by 22nd. But what's really by 31st, we can lay our reports. No, we are going to study the budget. All our committees will study the budget, and I believe the budget is for Nigerians. It's for our development, infrastructures, and other important things. And I'm sure Nigeria will be happy with it.
Recall that on the 18th of December 2024, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented the 49.74 trillion naira 2025 budget before a joint session of the National Assembly. The House also followed up by passing the budget through second reading on December 19, 2024, and referred it to the Appropriations Committee, with all standing committees as subcommittees for further legislative action. Away from the Senate to national matters, the federal government has announced the activation of surveillance measures for inbound passengers from China in response to a surge of the human metapneumovirus, a respiratory virus causing significant concern in the Asian nation. This decision, disclosed earlier in the week by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, aims to prevent the spread of the virus into the country. HMPV, which was led to overcrowded hospital and emergency measures in northern China provinces, has particularly affected children under 14 years. Neighboring countries, including Cambodia, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, have reported isolated cases and are closely monitoring the situation. China's health authorities have implemented preventive measures such as wearing masks, social distancing, and disinfection of public spaces to curb the spread. While HMPV is not new, it was first detected in Pakistan in 2001. Its recent surge has reignited global health concerns. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, in a statement on Monday, says it dismissed 27 of its officers last year for misconduct and fraudulent activities. The EFCC spokesman, Dele Oyewale, said the dismissals followed recommendations from the EFCC Staff Disciplinary Committee, which were ratified by the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede. The anti-graft agency also said it was investigating a trending $400,000 claim of a yet-to-be-identified support staff of the EFCC against a sectional head. In addition, the EFCC issued a warning to the public about impersonators and blackmailers exploiting the name of its chairman to extort money from high-profile suspects under investigation to refrain from such acts or face the consequences. The FCT commander of the Nigerian Police Force has apprehended and paraded approximately 50 individuals suspected of engaging in vandalism and theft of public infrastructure, including manholes covers. Announcing the arrest, the FCT Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, disclosed that the suspect targeted vital public assets such as manhole covers, vehicles, solar street lights, and construction materials like rods used for flyovers. He highlighted the grave risks this action posed to public safety and the city's infrastructure. The commissioner reaffirmed the command's dedication to safeguarding critical infrastructure, stressing that the police, in collaboration with other security agencies, will uphold a strict zero-tolerance policy against acts of vandalism and theft that endanger public safety and disrupt essential services.
So the shortest near the total service station from NNPC is gone, as our officers are there and have been left to be there. Shortage behind the eyes, shortage hourly per total of accuracy has already gone the same way. We are going to identify areas where all these activities are taking place and we will do what is necessary.
Some of the suspects confessed to their involvement in the crimes.
The one in the person where you say so that they know say this is arrest me. So in the run. So I don't remember the 3 television and the 1 radio when I said the
So how many televisions will you don't buy?
It's 3.
How much you buy?
350,000. Complete.
Yes. You buy them and we carry them.
From his house, carry it give me.
Do they work for National Assembly?
No.
Why do they work?
Now that place where they work, now they do business.
All these ones, where you buy, you don't know, you don't say that. Some of
them. Hey, I don't know. Now, say you get one TV. What you give me, now I start working with it. As I start working with it, it comes spoiled. So that's why I go carry another one and work.
How much did you give Alaji?
I want 30,000. No, now one time I give him 100,000 now, but I never complete 30,000 for him, and the sim comes spoiled. Still now, yes, now I tell it for me 130,000.
Now to Kogi State, where the decision of the state government to deprive students of registering unless they present a veritable tax clearance of their parents has sparked outrage in the state, with parents, human rights activists, and concerned educationists kicking against this policy. The state government had in late November last year issued a memo from the chairman of the Board of Internal Revenue Services, Sule Enehe, to schools in the state not to allow students who fail to present a verifiable tax clearance certificate from their parents to continue their education in the state. Reacting to the controversial policy, a Kogi-based legal practitioner and rights activist, Arome Udoma, has issued a pre-action notice against Kogi State's policy on parental tax clearance for students' registration, a fight for educational justice. Udoma, who is challenging the legality of the policy in a pre-action notice addressed to the governor of the state, Ahmed Usman Ododo, and the chairman of the Board of Internal Revenue Service, Laed Bare, the policy's flaws, branding it repugnant to national justice, equity, and good conscience. We'll take a pause here. News stories from the build sector are up next. Stay with us.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa.
Welcome back. Glad to have you join us on Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Now to the build sector. The federal government has allocated 11.5 billion naira in the proposed 49.74 trillion naira budget for the 2025 fiscal year to construct 20,000 housing units under the Renewed Hope Agenda housing scheme. This allocation falls under the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development's total budgetary allocation of 98,129,466,213 naira. Beyond the Renewed Hope Agenda scheme, an allocation of 3 billion naira for a prototype housing scheme in Suleja, Niger State, and Ikorodu, Lagos State, was included in the allocation under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. The project, which is ongoing, aims to address Nigeria's housing deficit by providing affordable housing solutions to citizens across the country. This substantial investment reaffirms the government's commitment to enhancing housing infrastructure and ensuring Nigerians have access to decent accommodation. The founder of Landmark Africa Group, Paul Onwanibe, has spoken about the devastating impact of the sudden demolition of Landmark Leisure Beach, which wiped out over $30 million investment and left thousands of lives disrupted. Onwanibe described the emotional and financial toll of the event, which took place with just 7 days' notice, while describing the essential part of Landmark Resort that was destroyed as leisure business, a significant part of our revenue and our physical infrastructure. Onwanibe revealed that the beach site has been acquired in 2006 for $17 million and further developed with a $30 million loan secured abroad. The demolition affected not only Landmark's ecosystem, but also the livelihoods of thousands, as over 1,000 employees and 50 small and medium enterprises were directly impacted. The Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, said it has identified an iron smelting company, the Abuja Steel Company, as one of the alleged receivers of stolen manhole covers. Spokesman of the FCT, Minister Lere Olayinka, while giving an update on the development on Monday in Abuja, said the company is located along Abuja-Kaduna Road, and exhibits of interest which have been recovered from the company are in the custody of the police. Recall that it was made public yesterday that arrests and recoveries were made by both the police and the NSCDC. The arrested persons are helping the security agencies with the useful information about the buyers of the vandalized infrastructure. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration controlled NAFDAC on Monday sealed a Chinese supermarket located at Asbah Mall, 2 Durban Street, Wuse 2, Abuja, for allegedly selling goods labeled in Chinese language without proper notification. The agency's Director of Investigation and Enforcement, Shaba Muhammad, while speaking with newsmen after the exercise, said NAFDAC got credible information about the supermarket. He revealed that the information was that all the items being sold at the supermarket were labeled in Chinese language, which he said violates NAFDAC regulations. Mohammed, who is also the chairman Federal Task Force on Counterfeit, Fake Drugs and Unwholesome Processed Foods with the agency, said upon receiving the information, NAFDAC swung into action. He further assured the public that the agency would investigate why over 90% of goods in the supermarket were labeled in a foreign language and how they got into the country. He added that some of the affected goods had expired and they were still on the supermarket shelves. President of the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, REDEN, Prince Akintoye Adeoye, has outlined key initiatives aimed at driving housing development in the country. These initiatives, he said, included increased collaboration with the federal government to advocate for policies that support sustainable and inclusive housing development, a focus on affordable housing solutions to address the significant housing deficit in Nigeria, and involvement in MOFI Incorporated Real Estate Funds. Others are the renewed hope housing across the country, capacity building and skill development programs for its members, and the promotion of professionalism and ethical standards within the industry. To wrap up Housing TV news at the top of the hour, on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden has imposed a ban on offshore drilling across a vast expanse of coastal waters, a move made just weeks before Donald Trump takes office, vowing to boost fossil fuel production. The ban covers the entire Atlantic coast, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, the Pacific coast of California, Oregon and Washington, as well as part of the Bering Sea of Alaska. According to a White House statement, the ban protects over 625 million acres of ocean. The ban does not include an end date and could present legal and political challenges for Trump, who has pledged to reverse policies aimed at curbing fossil fuel production. Thousands of South Koreans braved a snowstorm to rally in support of opposition of President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was suspended over a failed martial law bid and resisting arrest a day before the warrant expires. Yoon plunged the country into political chaos last month with a bungled martial law declaration and has since hauled up in presidential residence surrounded by hundreds of loyal security officers. An attempt to arrest him by investigators failed when a 36-hour standoff with his presidential security service ended over security fears, with his supporters also camped outside. More than 100 combatants were killed over the last 2 days in a northern Syria fight between Turkish-backed groups and Syrian Kurdish forces. The fight, which began on the 3rd of January 2025, which saw clashes in several villages around the city of Manbij, have left 101 dead, including 85 members of pro-Turkish groups and 16 from the Kurdish-dominated Syrian Democratic Forces, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights stated. Statement also detailed that the Syrian Democratic Forces noted it had repelled all attacks from Turkey's mercenaries supported by Turkish drones and aviation. Turkish-backed factions in northern Syria resumed their fight with the Syrian Democratic Forces. At the same time, Islamist-led rebels were launching an offensive on November 27 that overthrew Syrian President Bashar al-Assad just 11 days later. The cities captured were Banjin and Tal Rifat in northern Aleppo province from the SDF. That's the most we can take on Housing TV news at the top of the hour. Before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Federal government tightens monitoring for China passengers after new virus breakout. Senate committee meets sets January 31st deadline for 2025 budget passage. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission sacks 27 corrupt officers, probe $400,000 fraud complaints. Federal government allocates 11.5 billion naira for 20,000 housing units on the Renewed Hope agenda in 2025 budget. On the foreign scene, Biden's plan to boost fossil fuel production.